Honorable Minister of Education is going to arrive, and I'll ask you to stand when that time comes so that we welcome her and we get right into the program. Are you feeling good today? No, that doesn't sound like you're feeling good. You feeling good today? Let me hear the left side. Y'all feeling good? Whoever answers with the strongest energy getting a prize, right? All right, let us stand as we welcome our Honorable Minister of Education, Priya Manichand. So y'all feeling good now? On the left side, you're feeling good? My left. Y'all feeling good over here? All right, you may be seated. Good morning once again, and welcome to this auspicious occasion where we launch the national literacy programs for the students of our country at the nursery, primary, and secondary levels. Before we get into the protocol, I'll ask you to join me in standing so we can recite the universal prayer. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake. You may be seated. Oh, we got to go into the national pledge. All right. Yeah, so remain standing. It's some exercise y'all need for the morning, man. We're doing some mild cardio. I pledge myself to honor always the flag of Guyana and to be loyal to my country, to be obedient to the laws of Guyana, to love my fellow citizens, and to dedicate my energies towards the happiness and prosperity of Guyana. Thank you. Now you may be seated. I am Martina Johnson, and I am today's chairwoman, taking you through today's launch. I've had the honor of working with many of the staff at the literacy department within the Ministry of Education, and I can tell you this is one of the most committed, hard-working, dedicated team that I've worked with. And I've worked with many teams in many organizations, institutions, and companies. And the leadership and the vision of this ministry and this department is exemplary. And so today, yes, feel free to give them a round of applause. We'll have more moments to do that too. And so today, I am so happy to see the realization of all the hard work that they've been putting in. It didn't happen overnight. It was happening, building on years and years of commitment, dedication, early mornings. I know Miss Grant, 2 o'clock in the morning, you hear phone pinging. It's Miss Grant or Donella, sometimes Onika. Depending on what it is and which stage we are in the process. 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 nights ago, it was midnight. And then I woke up 5 something and I saw I had a message at 2 something in the morning. And we were getting the banners and the flyers and everything up. So that's the kind of commitment. And you'll hear more about that as we proceed. But let me first welcome someone who is going to set the tone for what is to come with an eloquent and powerful spoken word piece, Miss Carleen Gill Kerr. With her gift of words and passion for expression, she uses spoken word to inspire, to provoke thought, and to stir emotion. So she will prepare the mood for today as she brings the message of the power of literacy to life. Miss Carleen Gill Kerr.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, all the special invitees and audience. I used to sit in silence, still, while words danced around me at will. The page was a puzzle, a blur, a storm, a place where I never felt safe or warm. I watched others read with ease, behind tears and pleas. I'd whisper, why can't I read like them? I felt like my brain was condemned. But then a colorful voice came my way. Adventures with sounds and words that day. No longer black and white rules, too rough. No, this was music, this was movement, this was magic stuff. We turned into an apple, into a ball. Oh, how we sang the songs and danced through the halls. We played with words and broke them apart like puzzle pieces. I felt so smart. Now I can read and understand and decode words with my own hand. Short vowel, long vowel. I've learned the rules. Magic E and bossy R. I've got the tools. And listen, it's for every child, not just for me. These are like keys to set our reading free. With books and coaches too. They call it Bright, bringing reading improvements to greater heights. We saw too many children bow in shame. Too many little eyes struggle to read their name. Too many children blocked from text. And so we thought, what next? And so we got up and sprung into action, poured love and thought into every lesson. And then we invested in this worthy quest because we believe every child deserves the best. So, every child deserves the best. By grade 4, they all must read. Because our international plan is built for them to succeed. Clearly laid out, but yet with room for teacher flair, so creativity can breathe the classroom air. So, whether you're a novice or you're confident in this stride, these rules are here to guide, not override. Step by step, we scaffold the climb. Structured, thoughtful, and right on time. There's the literacy committee and reading coaches, wise. There's support teachers for schools to watch our readers rise. We've planted libraries in school once there, and now there are reading clubs growing everywhere. There's audio books from nursery to grade 2, so that our readers can hear and see the story through. And then there's blog and WhatsApp and literacy stream to keep our teachers on the team. We've done the work, but we are not done. Because this literacy race is never won. It's a journey that we take hand in hand. It's a national quest all across this land. Other day, when my friend couldn't read and cried that way, I said with the Bright program, there is a way. And we will sit by your side so you can unfold it
don't know if I could have remembered all of that. She is light, a bright one. She didn't learn to read yesterday for this, you could tell. All right, so now that all our protocol seats are filled and I don't have to say in absentia to anyone, let us establish today's protocol. First, we have the Honorable Minister of Education, Priya Manik Chan, Chief Education Officer, Saddam Hussein. He was just sitting here. Oh, yes, there he is. Permanent Secretary, Shanil Hussein Autar, Deputy Chief Education Officer of Admin, Tiffany Harvey. She didn't want me to call her name. She's like, let's brush that one aside. Deputy Chief Education, AHED, Marty D'Souza. Assistant Chief Education Officers for nursery, primary, secondary, exams, and all other divisions. Other senior officers in the Ministry of Education, regional education officers, district education officers, education program manager for Peace Corps, Samantha Williams. Our special guest, Lieutenant Colonel Christine Bradford Porter, and other special invitees. And I must also mention Ms. Fiona Prasad, our UNICEF rep, colleagues, teachers, students, all the children here today, well-wishers, and last but not least, my colleague and friend and host for today, the Assistant Chief Education Officer, Ms. Stembiso Grant. So welcome once again. After that lovely poem, I just want to give a quick plug to my friends over at EduFM, because all the materials being launched today, there are reading programs as well as other subject areas where you can tune into EduFM and listen to everything that's here, from the teacher's content to the students' content. So if you're having struggles reading, you listen to the program, it can help you through the day. All right, so let's continue. Thank you very much, Ms. Carleen Gill-Kerr, for that wonderful poem. And now we'll hear through a video testimonial from Ms. Jean LaRose, Education Officer for Literacy in Region 9. Her presentation is pre-recorded. Are you ready with that pre-recording? Yes, let's go.
I am Jean LaRose, Education Officer, Literacy, Region Number 9. Over the year, for the literacy program, I have been training teachers in my region, which include the LCM, which is the literacy committee members we have within our regions. We have been working together to train our nursery and primary teachers. Now, the literacy unit has an outline that captures all the components of the language arts, or generally the literacy, which we have our phonemic awareness, our phonics, our reading comprehension. Now, the teachers' response to this outline, they have welcomed this outline because it spells out everything in details, meaning with the curriculum, we look at the three strands, the general strands, which include listening and speaking, reading and viewing, writing and representing. And I must say here, Region 9 has started with training with the outline. We started working with grades 1 and 2, and our teachers are happy for this because the struggle, was real for them with the curriculum, where they were unable to find the different components of language. But now the outline has clearly shown where they can have those.
And as you can see from the banner, that the textbooks that are being developed or that have been developed for the classroom, they're accompanied by the literacy standards and benchmarks, which guides everything that is taught and delivered in the classroom. And it's a strong support system for the teachers, because what was happening in the past, even though work was being done, is that the teachers were left for the most part to be creative and do much of the delivery, planning, and presentation. But now it's done for you. And how it helps is that right across the board, all throughout the 10 regions of Guyana, every single school now has equal access, equal quality, and equity in the delivery of all the literacy content. So this is a major development. And as I give you that preview, coming to tell us more about that is Miss Tembiso Grant. And it gives me joy to introduce her as a woman, a mother, but most importantly here in today's setting, her capacity as a stalwart in education. She has worked in the system for decades, not as long as I've been alive, but for decades. And she's no stranger to most of us in this room, rubbing shoulders with the small man and the big man, and ensuring that everybody is aware of the work that's being done and that each of us has a role to play. So join me in welcoming the Assistant Chief Education Officer of Literacy, Ms. Tembiso Grant.
Really? Good morning, everyone. Honorable Minister of Education, Chief Education Officer, officers of the Ministry of Education, regional education officers, colleagues in education, distinguished guests, friends, boys and girls, members of the media. It is with immense pride and a deep sense of purpose that I present to you the overview of the new and review literacy programs. A comprehensive, research-driven, and culturally grounded set of initiatives that will transform literacy teaching and learning from nursery to secondary and beyond. These programs encapsulate a transformative set of initiatives that embody our government's unwavering commitment to ensuring that every child, from our earliest nursery learners, will read with confidence, write with clarity, and dream without limits. Today's launch is built on the foundation laid by those who came before me, and I must therefore acknowledge the work of Ms. Samantha Williams, the former Chief Education Officer Literacy, and other persons whose steadfast commitment to literacy created pathways for us to build upon. Our renewed literacy journey began in September 2023 when I met with the Honorable Minister, Priya Manichan. At this meeting, she issued a clear and urgent charge. We cannot have children in our schools not reading. STEMBI, we have to get them reading. Tell me what is needed. That directive ignited engagements with head teachers, parents, literacy experts, and education officers. This was done to diagnose the challenges, explore the solutions, and design a literacy structure that would meet the needs of all learners, from our youngest nursery pupils to struggling readers in secondary schools. We listened to their challenges, their aspirations, and their innovative ideas. From these voices, and guided by extensive research, and my oh my, we did a lot of research, and best practices from across the globe, a new and revised literacy program was born. At its heart, the national literacy programs form a continuum from explicit phonemic awareness and phonics at the early childhood level to structured comprehension and fluency development in primary, and targeted interventions through the BRIGHT program in both primary and secondary schools. This is a model that ensures no learner is left behind. Friends, this initiative is a national movement. From establishing and revitalizing school libraries, establishing reading clubs, strengthening community libraries, and collaborating with our partners, this initiative is grounded in the science of reading, supported by culturally relevant resources, and delivered with the belief that literacy is the right of every citizen. Colleagues, there has been unprecedented investment in this mission by the government of Guyana. With an increased budget at the National Literacy Department, this has resulted in the creation of rich resources from printed books and digital ebooks to instructional guides and video supports for teachers. We were able to expand our workforce, increasing regional literacy officers per region, appointing literacy committee members in every district, recruiting literacy support teachers for an intensive literacy program so that every district and every school can feel supported. Madam Chairperson, allow me to put on record that the national literacy programs are not just interventions, not just inventions. They are a systematic structure that ensures intentional teaching of literacy at every level. The new and revised structure is as follows. At the nursery level, we have revised the literacy learning sessions so that for the first time, every child receives daily structured foundational literacy instruction. We have introduced the Adventures with Letters and Songs Teacher's Edition, where learning is built through rote and repetition, linking every skill to the national literacy standards and benchmarks and the renewed nursery curriculum. The revised Roraima Readers series will now be used for explicit phonics instructions in mapped 10-day cycles. On the timetable, we have included a phonics book time using the newly revised nursery literacy workbooks, which will be used for 2025. And we will transition into the Adventures with Letters and Songs workbooks and answer keys for the 2026 to 2027 school year. Group story time, another learning session on the timetable, now has a new structure with shared reading, guided reading and guided writing. During these sessions, at specific times, 18 leveled and decodable Krang readers per year group will be used by the children. Plus, we have a shared readers text for teachers and a group story time manual for teachers also. This structure intentionally builds foundational literacy skills from simple to complex. It ensures repetition of key skills up to grade 2. It employs culturally relevant resources. It provides clear instructional guides for novice and experienced teachers alike. It is flexible, fun, and interactive. At the primary level, we have revised the timetables to include daily 15 minutes of letters and songs. This is to build and reinforce phonemic awareness, phonics, and spelling rules using the Adventures with Letters and Songs Learner's Guide. This guide will be given to every child upon entry into grade 1 and will be used until grade 6. The workbooks with matching answer keys. So the workbooks will be for the teachers, for the children, and the answer keys will be for the teachers will be used up to grade 4. The literacy hour and literacy studies sessions were restructured. This was done to ensure that all pillars of reading are taught with intentional, intimate reading experience for learners. The revised Atlantic Reader Series will be used as the basal reader for the learners. These will be supported by the Literacy Hour and Literacy Studies outlines. And these outlines are for teachers. Embedded in the structure is the BRIGHT, Bringing Reading Improvements to Greater Heights Together. That's the name of the intervention program. We will begin this program from grade 2, and this will be for learners who are reading below grade level. This will be delivered in small pull-out sessions for at least 50 minutes daily for literacy, and this will be done by the literacy support teachers. This program will also be used at the secondary level. So even though it's one book, it includes 3 modules with 3 instructors manual. So it will also be used to support our struggling readers at secondary. The School Library Initiative is an initiative of the Honorable Minister, which resulted in 336 titles of storybooks being provided at primary schools. So right now, all primary schools have 336, and our secondary schools have 345. And these will form the basis for our reading clubs, and we have implemented systems of borrowing, cataloging, and returning books. So to date, our primary schools, we have 85% of our primary schools would have created the spaces and catalog the books, and we continue to work with them, and we're continuing to work with secondary because they have just recently started to receive the books. This structure extends beyond schools into communities, strengthening community libraries in partnerships with other organizations. For example, we partner with the Little Library, Inc. We collaborate with the Ministry of Human Service to support literacy in the Juvenile Center and the Palms. And we also have small adult literacy programs. This transformative and significant government investment includes the creation of research-based resources, printed and digital, including ebooks for grades 1 to 2, building teachers' capacity through training, instructional videos, and practical guides, recruiting personnel. So to date, at the central level, I now have with me 7 national literacy officers. We have increased the regional literacy officers. For the first time, our nursery schools now have literacy committee members. We have 161 of them, and that's for the first time ever. At the primary level, we had just about 80, and that has moved now to 165. And come as of September, we will have literacy support teachers in our schools, and they will be there to strictly do the intervention program. We have developed a literacy website, and you will learn more about that, with a blog to share best practices and resources. And our main document, which is across there, the National Literacy Standards and Benchmark, is the foundation for which all of our programs and assessment is built on.
when we hear words like budget, we're like, money, 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 money again. And this is one of the ministries where, yes, there's a big budget, but you're seeing every step of the way what is happening. And while the launch is happening today, some of the content is already in our schools being used. Even the students at private schools have access. Some parents are downloading the materials from online and printing them. And you're already seeing the impact that it's having as you note the growth in the performance at the NGSA level. So you're seeing the impact, but there is still greater impact to come. As we proceed with the program, I'll encourage you to turn to the back of the program where the universal prayer is written, and you'll see this QR code here. This code will allow you, when you scan it, to view the materials on the website. There's also a section for you to put your feedback. So you're a teacher, an educator, whether you're retired or you're still functional, you can give your feedback on the materials. But we'll do that when we get to reviewing it in the exhibition center across from here. So we talk about budget, but what about inclusivity? I heard Stembiso mentioning inclusivity, but it's not just inclusivity for disability. It's not just inclusivity by region, but it's also inclusivity as we prepare. So I remember when the documents, when all these things were being developed, they were taken to students at different schools for review. Not just teachers and educators, but the students interacted with it to see, well, you know what, use this term, this one is more understandable, this one is simpler. And so the inclusion of those who have to integrate and interact with the materials, that was something that was very crucial as an observer for me, seeing the children being part of the development of the materials that would help them and those that come behind them. So there's a lot of vision and planning in the interventions that you see being launched here today. So thank you, Ms. Grant, for that overview. And I also want you to reflect on another aspect of what she said when she mentioned cultural relevance, because every single story in those books, post-pandemic, the inclusion and the cultural relevance and all those things were revamped, and new material also created with new books. But it was revamped considering that the pandemic affected our students or their ability to socialize. Some of them did not get that experience that we got in the classroom. Certain things that happened in the classroom, certain things that were said, they were not exposed to. So the inclusivity and the cultural relevance considered that. But it also considered the stories of our Amerindian brothers and sisters, where we talked about their communities by name, where we talked about their national dishes. And while you're learning essay writing, you're also learning about other ethnic groups and races in our country, their religious holidays, and how we celebrate as one. We're saying one Guyana now, but how we celebrate as one. So that cultural relevance and inclusivity, you will find it there in those books. So again, thank you to those who have been leading the vision and working to implement that vision. I hope that the 2026 budget will be bigger so that we can do more. So as part of the evolution of the literacy materials, the website was established. And we now have a demo to show you what it looks like and what you can do with it. Are you ready with the demo at the back? Excellent. I see a thumbs up. So let's look. I don't know what comprehensive is, if that isn't comprehensive, but do give your feedback. Scan the QR code at the back of your program once you have looked at the materials, and that feedback is important for the team to improve the content as time progresses. Now on to the next item on the program. We'll hear from Ms. Shaniqua Corbin, a nursery level teacher. She also has a video testimonial. And as we await the presentation of that testimonial, I just want to say thank you all for being a great audience, clapping when, there are moments we didn't cue you for. But thank you so much, and we'll hear from Ms. Corbin in just a minute.
My name is Shaniqua Corbin, and I am currently attached to Bagotville Nursery. I am a literacy monitor in Region 3. I have used the new literacy timetable in my classroom. At first, it took a bit of getting used to, especially in adjusting our routine. But once I became familiar with the structure, I found that it provided more guidance and consistency in planning literacy sessions. It also helped me to stay focused on literacy goals and track my learners' progress better. While we were already using the literacy components presented, the new timetable provided a more structured approach to executing those components. After the initial adjustment period, it became quite easy to follow. The timetable is broken down in a way that is clear and manageable. The time allotted on the timetable for phonics instruction, phonics activity, and group story time allowed me to be more intentional with each component. The new timetable is more structured and literacy focused compared to the old one. They are now given specific time blocks and clearer learning outcomes. When it was first introduced, responses were mixed. Some teachers found it challenging to adjust, especially those who were already used to the old system. But over time, many appreciated the structure and the positive impact on the learners' literacy development.
And again, Ms. Corbin highlighted something that is important. When you have a vision and you're doing a project, you must have an implementation strategy. And the implementation touched on shifting the timetable to ensure that everything that is done here is fit into the timetable and used according to the plan for the intervention to improve literacy in Guyana. Up next, we have a dance called Evolve, known for their vibrant energy, powerful movements, and cultural fusion, bringing stories to life through rhythm and motion. Get ready to be captivated by this performance that celebrates creativity, unity, and the journey of today's events as they perform a piece, as mentioned, Evolve. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the electrifying dance group, Joro Dance School and Company. I love their outfits. Don't they look beautiful? All right, music, music, music. Let's get going. I feel like dancing too. Can I join the troupe?
I'm trying to hold my breath, let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You set off a dream, getting louder now. Can you hear it echoing? Take my hand, will you share this with me? 'Cause darling, without you, all the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough, never be enough. Still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough. Never
All right, so let's move on to Ms. Colette Horatio's review and feedback of the materials being launched today. Colette is a retired literacy officer, and she was the chief person reviewing the content outside of the staff at the ministry's literacy department. Are we ready for Colette's presentation? Great.
The teaching and learning materials produced by the literacy department are all built to support the foundational literacy skills of learners. These resources are linked to the essential skills the learners need to develop reading fluency from as early as the nursery level and guide them towards mastery by grade 4. Now, these resources have an advantage over others of its kind. What is this advantage? These resources give specific and clear directions and explanations to both teachers and the learners. So the teacher who might be considered a novice has all the necessary guidance to provide meaningful day-to-day literacy instructions to learners, regardless of their reading level. Even more exciting are the learning activities, which are designed in such a way that learners have simple to complex activities to aid their skill development. Further, these resources produce a literacy program that is very systematic and which ensures that learners progress incrementally towards the goal of becoming fluent readers. Even so, it cannot be denied that there might be a need for remediation. As a consequence, extra provision has been made through the Bright Intervention Program. The content is easily relatable to all communities in Guyana, so that learning will take place readily. As with any teaching material, new ideas are introduced. However, the unfamiliar is made clear through illustration and discussion. It is clear that these materials are valuable resources in the effort to get pupils reading fluently, as well as understanding the workings of the language.
And Ms. Horatio, despite the gold, the silver here that you're seeing, is not one of those persons who say, oh, this is how we've been doing it all the time, I want to stick to that. She was one of the persons and remains one of the persons who's very supportive of the growth and the changes or the evolution along this journey. So thank you so much to Ms. Horatio and the team that worked with her from the early days when the content was being developed and even now. So we're winding down, and I know you're excited to go to the exhibition center to see all the resources. But before we do that, we have the feature presentation, which explains the vision and the budget behind the work that was done. Education in Guyana has been in what I would call it a transformational phase, pivoting in the right direction. These strides could have only come from someone and a group of people that had a vision. And with visionary leadership, we're seeing the results here today and in our classrooms. So today I have that distinct privilege of introducing a wife, a mother, someone who's been in the education system longer than I can remember, and a servant leader, putting the needs of our children first. So ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to join me in standing to welcome the Honorable Minister of Education, Priya Manichan.
Please sit. Good morning, education family. And this is usually why it's hard for us to make the case that you must be paid more, because you all dress up so much. People can't believe that you actually need that more. Today is a very special day for us. Very, very special day. And, but also today is a bit of a challenging day. So I'm going to go through this in stages. Ideally, anyone launching something like this a few weeks before an election might be told not to, because to put forward a solution means that you have to acknowledge a problem. And in this very opportunistic period where everybody snatches on to any little thing, for us to acknowledge a national problem that spanned many governments, that affected children from every region, political party, religion, social bracket, that was aided along, the challenge I speak of, by teachers from every, again, strata, could well open the door for an opportunist to pick up on the challenge without acknowledging that here is a solution. We didn't know election would be called on the 1st of September. STEMB was brought over, Ms. Grant, and started doing this in 2023. And we thought the election, well, we had until August, September, October, November, 3 months after the date that the president was sworn in. And most presidents would take all the time they can get, so in office. So I thought we'd have until late October. Nothing was rushed to finish this program. It just finished at this time. And nothing will stop us, including anyone who wants to jump out. Are we ready to jump back, by the way? With our answers, all of us, who will jump out to pick on what the challenges are, and to make that into a political issue, because anyone who does that cannot look any of us in the eye and tell us they love children. We must start this program. We must get these materials out. And so there must have been a launch for us to be able to do that so that teachers know what they're getting. And so let's talk a little bit about education. We defined in our education sector plan, and the political party in office defined in its manifesto, what it wanted to do in the 5 years from 2020 to 2025. And it included better and improved access across levels. That means building, reconstructing, or expanding schools. It included raising the quality of education across levels, expanding and offering more TVET opportunities to a wider range of children all across Guyana, looking at how we could get teachers better remuneration and better training, expanding our distance education program, expanding our school feeding program, providing the Because We Care cash grant and increasing it, and providing textbooks. That's essentially what we promised. And they all come under one of the lines or another. For example, providing textbooks and breakfast, and the cash grant would come under supporting our families. Training teachers would come under quality. And I'm happy to say, very, very proud to say, that with the team at education, because I didn't do this alone, with the team at education, we have fulfilled every single promise that we made, that the party in government made before the election. And we have done a review of our sector plan, and this is a professional review, by the way, and we have done in that review the marks are very high for where we should be because the sector plan mirrored what we said. So let's look at access. Because I hear people saying, oh, you can't, building a school is not educating a child, and I agree. But you can't educate a child if you don't have a school. And I mean, these are such very basic things, and you could say that when you're in Georgetown, sitting in an office, or in Pegasus, which is a bit too cold right now. You could say that when we're all comfortable here. When you go out into the hinterland, and you see that a child cannot go to school because nursery caters for a 3-4-year-old, and the nursery class that would be in the primary school is 2 hours away, then you understand why building a school means giving a child education. Or when you are somewhere like in Region 1, where historically they've had only 3 secondary schools, and children cannot access secondary education, and we're currently building 5 secondary schools in Region 1, one to be opened next week. If you look at me and tell me building a school means nothing, then I will tell you you don't know the people you are serving. Because for them, they have to start with getting into a school before we could begin anything else that is fancy. And the same people who are telling us that building a school means nothing truly believe it, because for their entire 5 years in office, they didn't start or finish a single secondary school anywhere in this country. And right now we're building, or have built already, 42 secondary schools. So you see the different philosophies. For nursery schools, we've built or are building 54 nursery schools, have reconstructed 13 nursery schools, and have extended, and we're not talking about a room or a toilet, I'm talking about a significant extension, 39 nursery schools across this country, bringing us the closest we have ever been to universal nursery education. The numbers for primary look very, very similar. We've built 24 primary schools. We have reconstructed another 20-something, and we have extended significantly 39 primary schools across Guyana. We're currently, as I said, building or have built 42 brand new secondary schools, but we have extended. So let's take a school like Yarra Cabra Secondary. Last year, Yarra Cabra Secondary did not exist. And this is for all the people on the highway. Didn't exist. Who are the people on the highway? Mostly people who migrated from different regions and came out, and there was space on the highway where they could go and put up their home and plant and sustain themselves. Mostly Amerindian and mixed families. Up to last year, there was no school at Yarra Cabra. We opened the school. It has 1,100 children in it right now, and we're doing a 12 classroom extension, because where you build schools, children go. Where you build schools, children go. So that's like the perfect example. No school, nobody was going. The school started, 1,100 children, their lives are changing, and their children's lives will change because of that, and we're extending even now as we speak within a year. And then there are schools like Queen's College and the Bishop's High and St. Rose's and St. Joseph's and St. Stanislaus and Tocqueville and Camberville and St. Winifred's and East Rumvelt that we're, and West Dem, what's West Dem? West Dem Secondary. And Anna Regina that we're extending, J.C. Chandy Singh, significant extensions that would cater not for necessarily more children, but for a wider range of programs comfortably. So that's access, and that's where we are with access. And then quality. You cannot talk about quality education if we can't talk about quality teachers. That's always a touchy subject. To begin offering quality, you have to offer more training to our teachers. Hither to 2020, the highest number of teachers ever trained in any given year under any government, including when I was minister before, was 535. We have been able to train close to 2,000 teachers and graduate more than close to 2,000 teachers every year since we've come into office. So over the last 4 years, we've graduated more than 9,000 teachers, whereas it would have been about 2,000 if we had stayed with our traditional means. But not only have we trained more teachers, so we've moved from a place where we used to have about 63% of the teaching cohort, which amounted to about 7,000, trained. And we've never been able to move past that 63, 64, 65, come back to 63. Very stagnant. We now have 98% of our teachers trained or in training. And the 2% are the people who are joining now and will begin training soon. But not only do we have a higher percentage of trained teachers, we have moved that number from 7,000 teachers to close to 15,000 teachers now in the system. So we have more teachers to teach our children, more teachers at a higher quality. Now, that always brings us to, do you see the proportionate level of improvements? And I have to say, we've moved from a 49% children passing with 50% or more at NGSA in 2020 to 64% of our children passing with 50% or more in 2025. So we've seen it. And we announce CXC next week, and with fingers crossed, I say we're going to see better results next week also. Not we, CXC announces the results. I'm waiting patiently. And then we've supported our families. Each child getting $55,000. Region 1 had the most productive region. So they had the parents who had the most children. Each child receiving $55,000 this year, taking it close to $11 billion being invested in the parents and children of this country just to buy uniforms and boots and lunch kits. And look, I'm a parent and you're a parent, and it's not going to mind your children whole year, but nobody promised you that. But I could tell you that $55,000 is enough to outfit them for school. And anyone who tells you it is not enough never tried outfitting any child, probably a delinquent parent, and is probably a father. I love fathers, though. Look, Dr. Hudson is taking great offense. Ask Mrs. Hudson if he ever went and buy uniform for Yeshua. So the male candidates who are telling you it's not enough, they don't know what they're talking about. I know what I'm talking about when I say to you that promises have to be based in reality. And we tell you that it will grow, as you have seen it growing. Plus, there's a transportation grant to be added on to that for each and every child. Each child is getting breakfast from grades 3 to 6. And the breakfast is wholesome. Is there wholesome and planned out by dietitians and calculated in terms of how much percentage fat and protein and carbohydrates and so on that a child will get. And while we are told that some children eat home and eat at school, which is fine, the intention was to give you a break at home if you couldn't manage breakfast for your children, because we want no child learning on an empty stomach. And we have promised, and it will come true, that that program will be expanded to give every single child in primary and nursery breakfast at school. And yes, you have seen the 1 or 2 dry bread advertised, but you haven't seen the thousands of breakfast every single day, 4 to 7,000, I believe, every single day, prepared mostly by single mothers in this country that are healthy and nutritious and well-packed and on time. And to show just a delinquent provider, and I'll tell you how we deal with them, or to lie about it, take out the cheese and just show the tennis roll, is disrespectful of the efforts of all those women who get up at 4 o'clock to make sure the children of this country have breakfast every day. And nursery to grade 2 is getting biscuits and fortified biscuits and fruit juices every single day. Now, as soon as we receive a complaint about something not being dealt with, was it urgent? Not being dealt with, then we deal with it right away. In fact, we've gone further. We've posted up around all the schools a QR code where you can scan in and tell us if you're unhappy with the breakfast, because the government's intention is to give your children a healthy, nutritious meal. And anyone who gets in the way of that cannot be your friend, cannot serve with us. And so we're very clear about that. Textbooks. We used to have just private school children or children whose parents could go online with a credit card, or children whose parents could get on a plane and go to Trinidad and buy some textbooks for their children. And I will tell you, I was one of those. I went to Trinidad to buy my child, my older child, the grade 6 textbooks she needed. So Guyana, Our Country, Our Home, it's called Guyana, Our Country, Our Home, but it's not our textbook. It belongs to someone else, and it wasn't available in this country for people's children. We bought for every single Guyanese child, whether you were on a mountaintop or at a river stream or here in Georgetown, a public school, a private school, all the textbooks that the private schools were using, it amounted to about 17 in that package. Graded math, process of learning grammar, social studies, the Guyana, Our Country, Our Home, and all the books. And what have we seen? This year, the top 10 marks amounted to 17 children. Of those 17 children, 9 were from private schools and 8 were from public schools. And we've never seen that kind of ratio before, because we believe that once you give children resources, support their parents, train their teachers, give them the classrooms to sit in, they will thrive. They will thrive. So let's come to this program that we have here. We started writing the Atlantic Readers. Dr. Hudson led that process sometime between 2011 and 2014. I think it might have been more closer to 2013 or so. And we had written books 1, 2, and 3, and that was in the school and on Giftland shelves and in the haberdashery stores. And everybody was using them and very happy. And at that point, it was only the reader that we had written. And we left, and nothing else was done. We came back in, I came back in, and we picked it up again, and we finished books 1, 2, 3, which was done before, 4, 5, and 6. And we have finished workbooks for all of those readers. So now you're getting all the workbooks from September coming, also from grades 1 to 5, because our curriculum stops at 5 to cater for the COVID loss that we had. Additionally, you're getting workbooks, and as teachers, I'm thinking you'll love this. You no longer have to wait or copy the work on the board, then let the children copy it in their books. You could now tell them, turn to page 12, and everybody has page 12 in front of them, and you work in your workbook. And that's going to be a joy to be in a classroom like that, both for the children as well as for the teachers. And we're very happy to be able to deliver workbooks for math, English, social studies, and science at the primary level for all our children all across this country come September. So it's going to be a very different learning environment. So this literacy, the literacy programs, not a fancy name, not a tagline. Well, I like taglines because, single but not alone when we had the single parent one, or stamp it out when we were trying to get rid of sexual violence. Taglines are nice. STEMB did this, National Literacy Programs. And I said, well, don't you have a tagline? And then she sent me like 5. And then I thought, no, this is it. National Literacy Programs, because that is what it is. So what are we trying to address? We're trying to address children who come into the system anew and don't meet the benchmarks they have to meet at the end of nursery, at the end of primary, at the end of secondary, as far as literacy goes. We're trying to address children who are in the system, at nursery, at primary, at secondary, and cannot yet read at the age-appropriate level. We're trying to address people who the system has failed and have left the system, so they're no longer in school. How do we make sure they are literate, even outside of school? And that is why it is very simply the National Literacy Programs. It's a collection of programs that aim at resolving all our challenges within a 4-year period, a 4 to 5 year period. And I don't have any doubt that it's going to work. So we have to involve not only the ladies in blue, and they're in blue because the education color is blue. Let's just make that very clear. Or STEMB So Grant, or the CEO. It has to be a partnership with the literacy department, with parents, with teachers, with children, with a high level of accountability. And we got to talk seriously about that. How does a child reach grade 6? Under the PPP and on the APNU. So if you come in for me, I tell you it happened under there too. How does a child reach grade 6 and they're unable to write a single word onto that national grade 6 examination, and they're just making loops? When you went to nursery 1, nursery 2, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, 8 classrooms, 8 years, 8 teachers. These parents trusted, dressed their children up in the morning and took them to school. And head teachers and teachers failed them. That's not a pleasant conversation, but it has to be one we have. Has to be one we have. So we send them into secondary school, and we give the child who couldn't write a single word. Mr. Blackman and I had a very robust conversation 2 days ago on Friday or Thursday, because I met a child at a particular school who doesn't yet, going into 5th form, she doesn't know what subjects she's going to do. And so that sounded odd to me, because you're supposed to know and start your SBAs and so on and forth. And then I, just by chance, said, "Look, can you read?" And she said no. And she said no. 15 years old. Went faithfully to school for 12 or 13 of those 15 years. That's a series of people failing that child without anyone intervening and doing anything about it. And so if you're going to come at us that we forgot a comma or this word shouldn't have been here, we're ready to answer you on it, because we are ready to launch this program, and we're launching the program, and we're going with this program, and we're not closed to commentary. In fact, that's why you have the QR code. Tell us what you think about it. But we're not going to wait for perfection before we begin these programs in September, because every single book almost has a first edition for a reason, and then second, third, and fourth because they had fixes along the line. And so Guyana is taking action today. We're taking action today. And that action includes getting this material out through the book department unit and through the regions. So I see Redo's here. Not having it piled up under the regional education department with a tarpaulin thrown over it. So the accountability is getting applied all across. I hope we're being very clear. Not because we're mean, unkind people, but because for every child who leaves unable to read, we destroy their chances in this thriving, beautiful country called Guyana. And that it gets out into the schools, and then that we have a rigorous monitoring process. If the only thing we can do is make sure every child is reading by grade 4, then we would have had a remarkably successful program. If they can't do anything else but they're reading. But you and I are in the system, and we know that once they could read, they could do almost anything else. So it begins with this. This, my friends, is the game changer in the education system. The literacy programs collectively is the game changer, along with trained teachers, along with schools, along with support for families. This is the game changer in the education system. And so we are asking for stakeholder support. We're asking for stakeholder support. The union has to buy into this and not come to us, you know, in private schools, and those of you who had children there will tell you that the director, headmistress, however they term them in whichever school, will go child to child and check to see how that child is coming along in terms of reading, literacy, being literate, comprehending, able to answer questions from nursery 1. So you would come back in term 2 and teacher X is no longer there. And when you ask quietly, well, what happened? The children loved her. 10 out of the 20 children couldn't read, and that was a teacher problem. Out the place. Not that we want to send anyone home, but we have to love our children in a way that demands accountability from the people who are paid to teach them. And that accountability will include us holding the hands of teachers and training and retraining where necessary, because these are specialties. These are specialties. Making sure there's more than one teacher in the classroom where there are problematic classrooms, so that we could pay specific attention to smaller groups of children. Bringing down the numbers of children in the classroom so the teacher-to-child ratio improves significantly. In fact, in Georgetown, I'm very happy to say this, in 2020 we had one problem. That problem was we couldn't find spaces for 865 children after NGSA to place them. Not in the bush, not in the jungle, not on a mountaintop, right here in Georgetown. And in Region 3 it was the same thing. 800 children we couldn't find spaces for. So you may recall, or if you Google it, you'll see it, East Rumvelt had an army camp set up. And army camps are set up to make sure nothing comes in and nothing goes out. So these children were in there sweating and sweltering. And we did put in the AC, look, you see, she has to put in that piece. But we built a shed, and then we were under the shed. And now if you pass East Rumvelt, it looks very different from 4 years ago. It has 3 new blocks. But we've moved from a place of not being able to place 800 children to now being at a place where we could bring down the number of children in each classroom closer to 25. So you understand what building schools does? It's not just putting children in the school. Is we're now able to give teachers a manageable number and give the teacher ratio that is standardized across the world. And so in Georgetown, That's our new target. It's no longer that we have to get schools. It's now that we're able to divide and spread our children up better so that we can have a better teacher-child ratio. But that means also that every school has to produce at the same quality. We have to move to a place, in my view, where there is no top school and bottom school. All schools will provide the kind and quality of education that each child deserves. But we could only move to that place when we produce a reading child, when we demand accountability from the people who are placed to give us the reading child, and when we make sure resources are equally and equitably distributed. We've taken care of that part. So we now have to take care of the literacy programs. So this is both, well, several things. An intervention for the children who are already in school at various levels, primary, secondary. It is a beginner program for the children who are now going into school. So if you have nursery-age children now going into schools, you are the best place Guyana has ever been in post-independent Guyana as far as literacy programs and interventions go. This is the most comprehensive package we have ever done as a ministry, as a country, for every level of children all across Guyana. And I suspect strongly that this is going to be a program that our Caribbean brothers and sisters utilize also, because we're not selfish people. All of this will be on our website. So you could have it in school for your children, and you could print it out to follow at home for yourselves. And I'm sure you'll find it in a dry goods store somewhere where you could buy it also, because our business people are very, make sure they're very resourceful and are in the business of providing to meet your needs. I went to Maruka last week, and I saw concise notes on the shelf. They're selling, and that's a good thing. We give it in the schools, but supposing you want it at home to be able to mark it and highlight it and make your own notes and so on. So this morning, my friends, you are part of a historic moment for Guyana in the launch and commissioning of our literacy programs, a bundle of programs aimed at making literate all of Guyana, from nursery, primary, secondary, and post-secondary. That's a historic package put together. We will be open to hearing feedback, but we're not waiting on a launch of this program. This program begins on September 8th in schools across this country. Teachers have already been trained in most regions or all regions. Our literacy officers have already been trained. And you have heard from Ms. Grant how we've moved the number of persons responsible for this by 100%, moving from 80 to 160 something, and that's just the beginning while we were building this out. We ask for the partnership of parents. We ask for the partnership of parents in this program, because there are going to be things that parents have to do. Before I go, I want to say to the literacy department led by Ms. Stambiso Grant, and I've met most of you because I've forced you to fix a library here, fix a library there, in 12 hours, get a library up and running. And that's another program we did that we didn't celebrate, where every primary school now has a primary school library, which is a beautiful thing, with all the nice books, Harry Potter and Junie B and Captain Underpants and The Bad Guys. The movie just came out for The Bad Guys. That's how popular those are. And Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys and the classics. And the aim is to get a reading library in every single school across this country. We finished with the primary schools and we've begun with the secondary, or we're finishing with the primary schools and we've begun with the secondary schools with classics across the country. I want to thank the literacy department. I want to thank Ms. Grant. I understand Lorianne is here from the director from the Ministry of Finance. Hi, Laurie. And that's important because Budget Office has seen so many pilot projects that they could get suspicious about a new one. This is not a pilot project. This is an intervention for all of Guyana's children, at the same time meeting them where they are at the level of literacy they are, and it has to be funded appropriately. And so it's a partnership of government intending that all our children will be literate, of the Ministry of Education looking after the accountability of this program, of the teachers in the schools and head teachers managing this. And it's going to be new to many of us, so there will be frustrating days in those schools when you're not really sure what they want you to do with this particular resource. You don't know how to use it. And our children and our parents. And if any one of those fail, we're likely not to see the results that we could see. But I believe that we have to start. And we're not starting at a place where you will see when you go into the other room the large number of resources prepared by this team. I have pictures of them that I'll sell later on, with people sitting on the floor and sleeping and going through late nights and holidays. One Labor Day, we were looking for two of them. They were actually at work. And I remember that. To get this done over a 2-year period. It's not a rushed piece of work. Is there going to be any mistake here? Perhaps. And we'll fix it in edition 2. But we're beginning it now. And so today it gives me great pleasure to commission for Guyana the historic literacy programs so that each of our child will leave grade 4 reading, literate, and being able to comprehend what they read, so that each child in the school system who exists right now post grade 4 is going to have an intervention that allows them to exit either primary or secondary school reading. It gives me great pleasure to do that. May God bless you all. May God bless our beautiful country, Guyana.
There's so much to digest from the presentation, but I have the task of summarizing it. So if you didn't capture all of it, you should capture the summary. Before I do that, I just want to give another plug. You know, I did the EduFM plug earlier, but there's also the Guyana Digital School, which is also part of the growth. And many parents and their children are using this resource, which is self-paced, and it's helping the students who may not be able to access extra lessons to get that boost that they need to excel. And like I said, it's self-paced. But today's launch of the National Literacy Program is critical and commendable towards educational transformation. And here's why it's important and how it's going to benefit your child and everyone else's child in all other subject areas. Literacy is the foundation of learning. You're not going to learn in math if you're not able to read and write. You're not going to learn in science. You can't do data visualization. You can't do coding. You can't use your computer. All these things if you can't read and write. Now you might say, oh, that's not true because my 5-year-old can't read and he or she is using a tablet. But at some point in time, that child is not going to be able to maximize the use of that tablet. Yes, they're playing games and they can scroll and things will pop up on YouTube. But it's going to get to a point where the tablet is useless to that child. But you can teach your child to read using these same resources that are online and get that child to maximize the use of electronic devices. We're not saying don't use these devices because you see in the pandemic, everybody had to get one. Now we're looking to ensure all the children can use these devices, but in a better way where they understand that it's an educational tool. And as we talk about it being transformational, it is a foundational investment in every student's academic future. That's what this is. And earlier I was having a conversation with Saddam Hussein, our CEO of education, and he said something that stuck with me. This is the biggest budget ever spent on literacy in Guyana. And therefore, we're expecting the best results that we've ever seen. This is the largest volume of literacy resources that we have developed. And so this should be coming out of this, the largest set of excellent results that we see in every subject area, because once we improve a child's ability to read, we improve the ability to comprehend, to reason, and to execute in every other subject area. So I want to invite you to stand. Are we going to do a nice chant? Join me in standing. We like these moments to the camera too. I'm going to say strong readers, and you will say strong nation. When I say strong readers, you will say strong nation. But not like that. With energy. Strong leaders. Sorry. Hold on. Strong readers. Strong nation. Strong readers. Strong nation. So let me compete now. This side first. Strong readers. Strong nation. Strong readers. Over here, one. All right, you can have your seats now. But that is exactly what is going to happen. When we have strong readers, we are going to build a strong nation. Children who can reason when they become adults. Children who will continue and improve this vision because they have the ability to do so, having been equipped now. I'm going to invite the last person on the agenda for today, Ms. Kelly Mohan, to issue our heartfelt thanks and to express gratitude on behalf of us all. Ms. Mohan?
Problems. Good day, everyone. All protocols observed. It is an honor and a privilege to stand before you today at this, as our Honorable Minister rightfully said, historic launch of the National Literacy Programs. A bold and timely step towards empowering our people and transforming our nation through literacy. The task is mine to extend heartfelt appreciation to all those who would have made this moment possible. Such transformation is only possible through shared vision and collective action. First, I extend our sincere gratitude to the Honorable Minister of Education, whose bold leadership and steadfast dedication continue to drive meaningful change in our education system. Thank you for believing in a team who has grown in both skills and knowledge to better lead the literacy mantle in Guyana. To our Chief Education Officer, thank you for your strategic direction and unyielding support throughout this process. Our Permanent Secretary, other senior officers, and members of staff within the Ministry of Education, we thank you for your unwavering support throughout this entire process. Our dear Assistant Chief Education Officer with responsibility for literacy, your coordination, guidance, and hands-on leadership were critical in bringing these initiatives to life. Yes, we thank you for leading a team and providing opportunities where individuals realize potentials buried within them. To the curriculum developers, our content writers, researchers, reviewers, graphic artists, web designers, presenters, proofreaders, and publishers, thank you. You are truly the backbone and lifeblood of this initiative. Every strategy on paper came alive through your dedication, patience, and passion. Our teachers, head teachers, education officers, and literacy committee members across the country, your hard work, innovation, and willingness to adapt has made this launch possible. We salute your tireless work and thank you for your service. We are also deeply grateful to the chairperson of today's proceedings, who steered our program with such grace and professionalism. Thank you for your time and for guiding us throughout this important milestone. To our performers, decorators, and members of the media, thank you for making this event a success. We acknowledge and appreciate the presence of our special invitees. Your support speaks volume about the value you place on education, and we are grateful that you choose to be here with us today. And finally, to our stakeholders, partners, guests, and well-wishers, thank you for your continued encouragement. Your presence today affirms that literacy is needed, a shared national priority. Let us move forward from here with renewed energy and unity, committed to ensuring that every child is empowered through literacy. Together, we are opening doors to brighter futures. Together, we uplift. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And may we all continue to champion the cause of literacy. All right, and so that brings us to the end of this program. I would now like to invite you to go across to our exhibition center where you may view the resources necessary.